Howdy folks, and welcome to the second episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Warships. It's just like my World of Tanks series, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, except it's warships, hence the title. Yeah, that sounded a lot better in my head than it did out loud. Oh, bloody hell, Jingles, it's a good job you don't talk for a living. Oh, hang on a minute. Well, anyway, moving along swiftly. This is in Furnace, and he is in the American Tier 6 cruiser, the Cleveland. The mighty, mighty Cleveland. What a ship this is. Or, well, more accurately, what a ship this was. It's still a good ship, but it has been nerfed since I played this thing back in the open beta test. How's it been nerfed, Jingles? Well, it's all to do with the velocity of the shells fired from these guns, and it still has a lot of guns, and they do push out an awful lot of firepower. And these things are an absolute nightmare for a battleship when you have all 12 of these 152mm guns raining down high explosive death and destruction on you from a range of anything up to 14.6 kilometers. To be honest, the Cleveland did need a little bit of a nerf because it was just far too good at doing that sort of thing to battleships at the extreme range of its guns. And so what Wargaming have done is they've nerfed the velocity of the shells. It now takes a lot longer for the shots to actually reach the target, especially at extreme range, which means that a battleship, for example, or anybody for that matter, but battleships were the primary recipient of the Cleveland's fury. All they have to do is, once they start coming under fire from the Cleveland at extreme range, is just adjust their course and speed, and the Cleveland is going to miss with most of its shots, if not all of them. It's still very, very dangerous at medium and close range, but at long range it's not quite the menace that it used to be. In fact, at the extreme range of these guns, the Cleveland can have a third salvo of shots in the air before the first ones have even arrived at the target. As he's demonstrating against this New Mexico, there goes his first salvo of shells landing harmlessly in the water behind and to either side of the New Mexico as he turned, and there goes his fourth salvo of shells as the second are also missing the New Mexico. You can see how much lead at this kind of range you have to give the Cleveland's guns these days. So the New Mexico lives to fight another day. This Nuremberg, however, is not faring quite so well. It looks like he's been torpedoed by an enemy destroyer. He's burning from stem to stern as he's been coming under a concentrated barrage of what looks like high explosive from the two other friendly cruisers that arrived here before Infernus. And there's the first kill for Infernus's team, but they've just lost a destroyer and they've already lost a cruiser ahead of that. This game's barely minutes old. High explosive loaded from shooting at the New Mexico. Perfect ammunition choice for shooting at a destroyer like this. He's hit and incapacitated him. He's knocked his guns out. This guy in the Nicholas up ahead is... it looks like he's trying to get in close and get some torpedoes off against that friendly Furutaka. Did he get the torpedoes away before he died? I don't think he did. I think the Furutaka is going to survive. For how much longer, I'm not entirely sure with this lot coming around the corner. There's a Karlsruhe. I'm probably mispronouncing that, my apologies Germany, and there's an enemy battleship backing him up. And there's also some fire coming in from what I think is an enemy destroyer in the narrows between the two islands off to the right. Hiding in that smoke screen. No, is it oh my god, it's a cruiser. It's an Omaha. Okay, well, high explosive is loaded, but you're going to want to switch to armor piercing to deal with this fella, and that is in fact exactly what he does. He's already set the Omaha on fire with a high explosive that was loaded into his 152mm guns. Remember, the Omaha has torpedoes. He doesn't appear to have launched torpedoes against... oh, he does. There's the torpedoes in the water from the port side launched against the Furutaka. He's bringing the ship around because he wants to get these torpedoes away from the starboard side. But the armor-piercing barrage... oh, multiple citadel penetrations going in there. Come on, finish him. The Cleveland secondaries are also opening up. Bang, he's nailed the Omaha, and not a second too soon. The Omaha was about to launch torpedoes. The Furutaka there, reversing, it unbelievably survived, and is now reversing into the smoke screen that was dropped by an enemy destroyer in the gap between the two islands up there. But what's coming around this corner? I'm pretty sure there was an enemy battleship spotted. So it's all going to come down to what exactly is in front of him in that smoke screen up ahead, and it's a German Tier 4 cruiser, the Karlsruhe, and he's being backed up by an American Tier 5 battleship, the New York. The Karlsruhe has torpedoes. It's the first German cruiser to have them. Now what's the difference here? Okay, it's a tier 4 cruiser versus a tier 6 cruiser, but the German cruiser has 150mm guns and it can fire 7 of them from this angle. Infernus has 152mm guns, but he's not going to be able to fire all of them because he is angling the ship, which means that the armor-piercing shells from the Karlsruhe are going to do very little damage because they're not going to penetrate the hull, and if they hit the superstructure there's very little critical there for them to damage. By contrast, just look at the mess. Look at the mess that Infernus was able to cause to that German cruiser because that guy just sat broadside onto him and made himself a perfect target for his armor-piercing shells. This is a different matter, however. This is the New York class American Tier 5 battleship, and here comes his guns. And yeah, yeah, any amount of angling in a cruiser is going to make very little difference when guns of that caliber are being fired at you. But the New York's guns take about 33 seconds to reload. So here comes the high explosive spam. He's got nothing to lose here. He's broadside on, so he can get all of his guns working. He's trying to set him on fire in as many different locations as possible. Remember, 33 seconds to reload these guns. He's spreading the fire around from stem to stern on this ship, trying to set him on fire. The battleship has used his damage control ability. He's going to fire again. There it is, and that really hurts. And his 127mm secondary guns have set Infernus on fire. He uses his damage control ability. And now watch this. At first I thought Infernus was going to ram this New York. He's very low on health. The ram would probably kill the New York, and it would be totally worth it. But nope, he's a lot smarter than that, because he knows that the New York takes 60 seconds to rotate its gun turrets 180 degrees. So instead what he's doing here, well, he's basically circle strafing this guy. It's like watching a Chaffee in World of Tanks playing with an isolated T-29 when there's just nowhere for the T-29 to back up into. That was absolutely beautiful. A couple of minutes later he's caught his breath and an enemy Nuremberg-class cruiser has been spotted by a friendly destroyer up ahead at a range of about 13 kilometers when he starts firing. He pops back into range, trying to get those plunging fire hits in with his armor-piercing shells. And I don't know about you, but I always feel vaguely cheated whenever a target's on extremely low health and the last shot that hits him is a citadel penetration. There it is. I'd demand a refund. I don't know about you, but hey, a kill's a kill, so, you know, it would be churlish to complain. This match is far from over, however. The enemy team still have 2 destroyers and 2 battleships, but luckily we know exactly where one of the destroyers is. Unfortunately, at this kind of range, with these 152mm guns on the Cleveland, it's next to impossible that you're going to hit a target as small and fast-moving as a destroyer. You're going to need to get closer, and that is very bad news. That's an enemy New Mexico on full health. That we could have done without. It looks like some torpedoes have been fired at him and missed. And watch these 2 destroyers up ahead going at each other. Torpedoes in the water, and oh, a little bit of a lag spike there, and they have basically both sunk each other. It's always amusing when you see destroyers doing that. And while that was going on, I didn't actually notice, but the enemy team have lost another battleship. So that's not good news for this enemy New Mexico, who is currently engaged in a point-blank range gunnery duel with a friendly New Mexico who is on lower health. And okay, there are 2 cruisers coming in to add some supporting fire with a high explosive, but just what's the difference between these 2 New Mexicos? The enemy New Mexico started on full health, and watch this hit. Bang. That's 2 citadel penetrations right there. The friendly New Mexico is only able to fire, you'll see when he comes into view, he's only able to fire his 2 front gun turrets at this guy, and this guy is blasting away with every gun on his ship. But he's gonna lose. And it seems counterintuitive, but he's gonna lose because there you can see it. He's broadside on to the friendly New Mexico, who, despite the fact that he can only bring 4 of his guns to bear on this enemy New Mexico, is absolutely kicking his ass because he's getting shots straight into the flat armor on the side of that enemy ship. And oh, there are torpedoes in the water. Well, I think we know. Yep, he's just popped up on the map. Well, now we at least know where the enemy destroyer is, but just look at these 2 New Mexicos. One was able to score citadel penetrations, the other one wasn't, despite the fact that the one scoring the citadels was only able to fire 4 of his guns, and the one not scoring the citadels was able to fire all of them because the guy in the enemy team exposed the broad side of his ship, And the friendly New Mexico, despite eating a torpedo or two from this cheeky little destroyer and starting the fight on lower health, came out on top because he kept his ship pointed towards the enemy ship and denied him the chance to score any citadel penetrations, and bang, there we go, match over. So how did Infernus do? Well, victory, obviously. 347,500 credits earned by scoring 251 hits on enemy ships, shooting an aircraft down somewhere, I missed that. 6 incapacitations, 5 kills, set enemy ships on fire 9 times, and scored 4 citadel penetrations, got the high caliber award, and earned nearly 10,000 experience. Whoa, hang on a minute, what dark sorcery is this? Well, there was a special going on for ×3 experience, but hold on, that still means he scored over 3,000 base experience in this match. And just to drive home the point about how suicidally stupid it is to sit broadside onto a battleship, we're going to demonstrate it again with the help of Malarkey, who I've actually featured a couple of times in World of Tanks replays. Malarkey is sailing the beautiful Japanese Tier 8 battleship, the Amagi, and in company with a lone Pensacola-class cruiser, the American Tier 7, he is going to have to face off against what is easily more than half of the enemy team. I wonder how he's going to do. Well, it's all going to come down to how many of them are going to let him take pot shots at the broadsides of their ships. The match is barely seconds old, and Malarkey is already getting that sinking feeling, pun intended. Have a look at the map. Yep, it's a classic lemming train, and he's already been spotted by enemy fighter aircraft. Oh, fantastic. He's not completely alone down this side of the map. He is for the moment. There is a New Mexico class battleship and that Pensacola I mentioned earlier, who have decided, oh crap, this flank is completely open, there's nothing over there but a Tier 8 battleship, we'd best go over there and give them a hand. But this is not the situation you want to be in a battleship. Alone, isolated, no friendly cruiser defensive fire nearby, spotted by fighters with dive bombers and torpedo bombers on the way in. So Malarkey, hang on, where are those guys going? Why are they not going for Malarkey? What is wrong with the enemy aircraft carrier? Malarkey's launched his fighters. Well, his fighter. Fat lot of good that's going to do him. Although, having said that, when they're being engaged by a catapult-launched fighter, it does mess up in exactly the same way that the cruiser's defensive fire cooldown does. It messes up the accuracy of torpedoes and bombs launched by aircraft. But I just don't understand what this enemy aircraft carrier is thinking of doing here. He had it wasn't a perfect opportunity to score some serious damage against Malarkey, but it was fairly good. Malarkey didn't have any defensive cruiser support, and instead he's sending his bombers. Well, I don't know where he's sending his bombers. That's a whole mess of enemy cruisers over there. Why would you send bombers anywhere near... Oh, hold on, I think I know what he's doing. He's going for the New Mexico, isn't he? Well, that kind of makes sense, but the New Mexico is in range of the defensive AA fire of the Pensacola, and Malarkey wasn't. But he is now, so... bit of an opportunity missed there by the enemy aircraft carrier, and now Malarkey has been spotted by enemy surface vessels. And it's all about to kick off. And here it comes. That's an Amagi on the enemy team shooting at the Pensacola, and those shots missing. Malarkey's ship are being fired by an enemy Fuso. And there go those aircraft. They're definitely latching onto that New Mexico. So far, 2 enemy ships spotted momentarily, but trust me, there's a hell of a lot more than that. There's the Fuso. So far, Malarkey doesn't actually have anything to shoot at. Dive bombers going for the New Mexico there. His catapult fighter is orbiting overhead, but the New Mexico is too far away to get any benefit from it. And here come the torpedo bombers. Malarkey's anti-aircraft guns opening up in defense of that New Mexico, but he can't afford to slow down and let that New Mexico catch up, because he's starting to come under sustained fire from all of these enemy ships as more and more of them pop up into view range. The Pensacola has also taken some hits, and he's turning around and breaking off, while his anti-aircraft guns punish some of those dive bombers as they make their way back. More enemy ships popping up, as well as the New York, the Fuso, and the enemy Amagi. There's now also an Otago. He's taking some hits. It's light damage, but there's a lot of it. So he gets some return fire out at the Fuso, and doesn't score any citadels, but does do a lot of damage with his armor piercing. Burns his damage repair ability, turns and prays nobody shoots at him, as he's in the turn. Unfortunately, they shoot at him as he's in the turn and hit the broadside of his ship, and bang! There's at least 2 citadel penetrations there, right when he didn't need it to happen. It's a little late, but now he's managed to angle the ship somewhat against all this enemy fire. Fires his guns at the Fuso once more, and the Fuso is burning his damage repairability as well. He's knocked out one of the Fuso's gun turrets, but look at this volume of fire coming in. Again, now that he's managed to get the ship angled, you can see the fire's coming in from almost directly behind, and it's too close to be plunging fire to go straight down from above into his decks. So he's actually in a reasonably good position here, but the sheer volume of fire that's coming in is going to just whittle his health down. This Fuso, however, is still showing the side of his ship, so not want to look a gift horse in the mouth, Maliki punishes him with 2 citadel penetrations straight into the flat side of the ship. There are actually 7 enemy ships up there. They've just lost the New Mexico, by the way. He's done. So it's 7 against 2. And credit to this Pensacola. Most cruisers facing this kind of firepower would have turned and run. And I wouldn't have really been able to blame him, but he sticks by Maliki through thick and thin, and that's going to prove decisive. 7 enemy ships against 2. Maliki pummels this Fuso again. And the Pensacola finishes him off. So now it's 2 against 6. Well, it's 2 against 6 for the moment, but believe it or not, the enemy team actually have reinforcements on the way. So it's not going to be 2 against 6 for very long. Now, that's the enemy Amagi. Now, he's not fully upgraded, you can tell just by looking at him. I don't know which hull upgrade he has. He may be completely stock, he may have the intermediate hull upgrade. I don't know what the intermediate hull upgrade looks like, but he does still have 10 410mm guns. And he turns the ship just in time to angle that side armour in order to avoid taking a citadel penetration from Maliki's 410mm guns. Maliki, knowing exactly what's going to happen, turns the ship around. Takes some damage, but no citadel penetrations, because at this kind of range, this is medium range for battleships, or for Japanese battleships. He's too close to this guy for that guy to be able to score plunging fire with his armour piercing and score citadel penetrations that way. And he's not showing him the broadside of the ship. I'm going to be saying that a lot throughout the course of this replay. Maliki isn't showing him the broadside of the ship, so that guy is not able to get these really, really big citadel penetrations on him. Maliki has now run into the map border. He's not doing it on purpose. You can see he's trying to turn the ship around. His forward gun turrets are rotating very, very slowly. He can still fire the rear turrets. He has to get this guy sunk before the rest of those ships catch up. The New Yorks, all of those Atagos. In fact, I think he may already be in range of one of the Atagos. This Amagi is peeling back. He's had enough of this. He's been taking a consistent beating. But again, despite burning multiple damage repair cooldowns, Maliki is still on less than half health. And oh no, here come the torpedo bombers. Even bigger oh no, he's out of range of the defensive fire of that Pensacola. Now, he's already launched a catapult fighter, and I think the Pensacola has launched a catapult fighter as well. You can see them going in for these torpedo bombers, and that is what is going to be the critical difference here. Some of the torpedo bombers are being engaged and shot down. Maliki is forced to turn the ship straight into the map border once again as he takes more fire from the rear. And you can see the effect that the torpedo bombers have suffered. Look at the spread on the torpedoes there. That's what happens when they're being engaged by either a cruiser's defensive fire cooldown or they're being engaged by a catapult fighter launched by a surface ship. So he doesn't take any torpedo hits, but he's burning. And he's stuck in the bloody map border again. The enemy Amagi has peeled off, but he's now taken fire from that Atago, and the Atago's managed to set him on fire with his high explosive shells. The Atago, of course, has torpedoes, and those torpedoes have a 10-kilometer range, and he's within 10 kilometers, so Maliki is forced to turn away from him or run the risk of getting hit by this guy's torpedoes. He's struggling to bring the guns around as he fights to get clear of the map border here. The Pensacola still giving him some supporting fire. More fire coming in from the Atago. Now, at this kind of range and this sort of angle, it's very unusual to score a citadel penetration, even against a cruiser. But he gets lucky, and he does get a citadel. The Atago then bizarrely decides that this is the time he needs to turn the ship broadside on. He's obviously anxious to get the kill here, as Maliki's on very, very low health. But turning broadside on earns him another citadel penetration from Maliki's forward guns. Malachi, unfortunately, is about to run the ship aground. He's managed to put the fire out, but if this Outergo gets any more fire into him, he's going to set him on fire again. Chance for a kill here? No! Oh, Pensacola to the rescue. And he's burning again, but the first fire was extinguished by his crew's natural firefighting abilities, which meant he did not have to use his damage control ability. So he used the damage control ability to put out the second fire set by the Outergo just before he went down. And there he is in chat. It's true. Sitting side onto a battleship, that's a paddling. The old Simpson quote. Surely that's going to become a thing. It deserves to. Anyway, they've sunk 2 of them. Where are the rest? And who are those guys shooting at? I can see some shots going in the middle of nowhere over there. Oh, shit. An Atlanta. The Atlanta has 16 127mm guns that fire every 5 seconds, and each shot has a 5% chance of setting you on fire. I have completely wrecked battleships at close range with this ship. So, of course, the Atlanta doesn't shoot at the low-health battleship, but sails broadside on right in front of Malachi's 410mm guns, and instead decides to shoot at the mostly full-health Pensacola. Murphy's rules of combat. Never interrupt the enemy when he's making a mistake. Come on, Malachi. Reload. I mean, what does this Atlanta think he's doing? It's a premium ship, by the way, which probably explains an awful lot. Here it comes, and there's a kind of a grim inevitability to all this, isn't there? I mean, that was just... He could have killed Malachi there, quite easily. Even in the time it took Malachi to reload his guns and get that second salvo off, he could have been dead to high explosive spam as his ship burned, and he wouldn't have been able to do a thing about it. I mean, why on earth would you want to shoot at a ship that you actually stood a chance of sinking? That's just crazy talk. So, hallelujah for people in premium ships playing well above their tier who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. Long may it continue, as long as they're on the enemy team. Oh look, there's one of those New Yorks we saw earlier. There's still just 2 of them, by the way. Just Malachi and the Amagi and the Pensacola over on this side of the map. I don't know, sometimes I really wonder what's going through people's heads. You know, if anything is going through their heads. That New York, for example, who's he shooting at? Why is he not shooting at Malachi? He could kill Malachi, but no, instead he's shooting at another friendly battleship over there in the cap circle. And Malachi's put another salvo into him and knocked one of his guns out. And now the Pensacola's shooting at him, and now he starts turning the ship around. Now he's thinking, oh, where did those 2 come from? I mean, seriously? Those 2, who are the only 2 ships that have been here the entire game, what do you mean, where did they come from? How could you not know they were here? And Malachi starts getting cocky here. He doesn't even look. I mean, he knows he's sunk this New York now. And he's turning his attention. There they go, New York dead. And some fire. There we go. Now the New York starts shooting at him. And there's the enemy carrier. Hooray. He's screwed, of course. Although he doesn't really help himself here. I mean, there's only 2 ships left on the enemy team, but there were 7 or 8 of them against Malachi and this Pensacola, and they couldn't sink either of them. And so the Ranger, with a low-health battleship shooting at him, decides to launch his strike aircraft against an air defense cruiser. Oh, and there's the Confederate to go with his high caliber. And the carrier does actually manage to score 1 torpedo hit on the Pensacola. If he hadn't been launching torpedoes at a Pensacola, if he'd been launching them at, for example, oh, I don't know, a low-health battleship, he might have actually sunk him. But it's a Pensacola. It's a cruiser. It's got the defensive fire cooldown. Oh, well, never mind. Come on, Malachi, get the kill. I think you've earned it. And there it is. And now there's only 1 ship left on the enemy team. And this game is in the bag. Oh, look. Did you see that, by the way? Let me just give you a freeze frame of that, just in case you missed it. Here we go. Because, well, the thing is, I know that while I was laughing my ass off at that New York that Malachi just executed, for failing to shoot at Malachi and potentially sink him when he had the chance, and instead choosing to shoot at something else, that some of you are going to be sitting out there saying, well, it's all right for you to laugh, Jingles, but you don't know how much health the ship that the New York was shooting at had? Well, yes we do, because that's him right there. Why would you do that? Just, I don't know. Words fail me at this point. I've actually gotten some quite upset comments posted in some of the videos I've uploaded over the last couple of months, where people get quite upset when I just point the finger at and laugh at the stupidity of people in online gaming, whether it's World of Tanks, World of Warships, or whatever. And I really don't understand what people are getting upset about. Say, oh, Jingles, you're so arrogant. Well, maybe, but in my opinion, being laughed at is what idiots are for. What else are you supposed to do with them? Seriously, I mean, none of this is complicated. This is not advanced military tactics or anything. You shoot at targets that you can kill. You do not shoot at targets that you cannot kill. This is not rocket science. And yet, time after time after time, you see people shooting at targets that they cannot kill. The Atlanta choosing to shoot at the Pensacola when he could have killed Malachi. The New York choosing to shoot at a full health New York, while Malachi is pounding him with 410mm guns, and he could have sunk Malachi. And personally, I think it's great, because you guys may even learn why it is that you keep getting broadsided and citadeled by battleships so often, and if you already knew why, well, at least you can have a good laugh, along with me and Malachi, at other people's expense. Well, we're going to finish off with a couple of clips that amused me even more than that one did. This is Mindscreen in the Japanese Tier 7 battleship, the Nagato. And just when he thinks he's about to have a good game, things start to go very, very badly wrong indeed. Spotter aircraft up, enemy Pensacola spotted. Judges the amount of lead that he needs to give to the shots, and instead of putting all of his eggs in one basket and just firing a big old salvo from one broadside, instead he scatters the shots around to try to take into account the Pensacola performing any kind of evasive manoeuvres, and as he waits for the shots to land, he takes some minor fire from the Pensacola, but is rewarded with, it was only one hit, but it was a Citadel for 12,500 damage, and he has no time to celebrate because there are torpedoes coming right at him. Didn't spot them until it was almost too late. Takes one torpedo for a lot of damage right in the bows of the ship. The Pensacola is turning around and returning fire, but he's got more immediate problems because... okay, good news, he spotted the destroyer. Alright, turns the ship towards the destroyer. One destroyer you can handle. It's a Farragut, the American... oh, no, there's two of them. A Farragut and a Mutsuki. And he's got armor piercing loaded because he was shooting at the Pensacola. Fantastic. His secondaries open up. The Nagato's secondaries do a very, very good range. An American destroyer, like the Farragut, is probably going to be within secondary battery range when he's in torpedo range. What's he doing? Why is he turning sideways onto these guys? Well, he's not actually turning sideways onto these guys. He's trying to turn around and put some distance between himself and these guys. And here come the torpedoes from the Mutsuki, who keeps popping in and out of the smoke screen. The Farragut is peeling away. He must have also launched torpedoes. Here they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've lost count of the number of torpedoes. But it doesn't matter, because he's avoided all of them in a Nagato. How is that even possible? Dunno, don't care. And neither does Mindscreen. And that Mutsuki, what the hell? And now, of course, he's got high explosive loaded. And he's not the only one shooting at the Mutsuki. The Farragut has turned around and run for it into the smokescreen. These two guys had him dead to rights. How can this possibly be happening? How is he not dead and they are both completely boned? The Mutsuki's burning to death. The Farragut's trying to haul ass and get the hell out of there. Oh, and he's in the map border. That's not going to do him any favours. High explosive out. Seriously big guns on the Nagato. There we go. Some fire coming in from behind. There's I think it's a Cleveland. It's just not going very well for these two destroyers at all, is it? Yep, there it is, it's a Cleveland. That is not what you want to see. When you've just managed to completely botch an ambush on a Nagato, of all things, with two destroyers, one of which was Japanese and shouldn't have been detected. Fantastic. I do love seeing the shoe on the other foot like this, especially when it's a battleship, because battleships do get a lot of stick. And I'm probably guilty. Well, no, I'm not. There we go, he's killed him. Fantastic. justice. I do realise I have something of a reputation for taking the mickey out of Battleship players, and I'm not. I don't make fun of Battleship players. I make fun of stupid players because that's what they're for. It just so happens that it's easier to capitalise on mistakes made by battleships because battleships are so slow to recover from making the mistake that we see so many mistakes made by people in battleships. And I do love it when I get an opportunity like this to show the shoe very firmly on the other foot. So that was Mindstream in the Nagato taking a couple of destroyers to school who had the impertinence to try to torpedo him. And the final clip in today's video is something pretty spectacular, and once again it's a battleship. This is Captain Vancouver in the ever-reliable and deeply sexy Japanese Tier 5 battleship, the Congo. This match has barely started. He's only just loaded his guns, but thanks to some sterling work from friendly aircraft carrier, they have already spotted one of the enemy aircraft carriers. Since he's got his spotter aircraft airborne, he's actually in range. And so for the brief period of time in which that enemy Langley has been spotted, well, it would be rude not to shoot at him, wouldn't it? So that's exactly what he does. And surprisingly, he hits him. Doesn't do a lot of damage, however, because he had high explosive loaded in anticipation of having to shoot at destroyers first. But high explosives set him on fire, and when you're on fire, you can be seen from a greater distance, which means that the Langley pops into view again. Now, he very quickly extinguishes the fire and disappears from view once more. But Captain Vancouver's shots are already in the air. He can't see him, but that doesn't mean he can't sink him. Get in there, you beauty. That's it for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.